Let's start in the backcourt because I think the backcourt is a little bit easier for the West. I think there are just two very obvious guys that you have to have in those two guard spots in the West.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ja Morant and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes, to both.
It's just like you have to have those guys at the end of the day.
Yes.
So what about, let's start with Shai. What about Shai's game has stood out to you this season?
I mean, the scoring. The guy gets to the hoop and finishes around the basket. I mean, the way he finishes as a guard is insane. Actually, not pretty insane. It is insane. There's just no reason for it. And Ja is the same way. These are two of the best guard finishers in the league, and it shows in the stat sheet. Getting to the basket is still important in basketball, and these guys do it like nobody else. And when they get there, they actually finish. They go hand in hand there. I've got defensive concerns with both of these guys. Shai is definitely not a very good defender, but when you are that good of an offensive player, you're going to raise your team up no matter what. And I just think that his efficiency has been pretty great this year. The scoring really, really has stood out to me. I mean, he's a legit 30-point a game night guy.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's also getting to the line more often than he ever has, and he's consistently been a guy that gets to the line all the time. But this season, he's averaging 10 free throws per game. And as a hater of the grifting, I feel like he's not really a grifter.
No, these are legit. Look, driving to the basket and going to the line is okay. Yeah. The grift is, searching out rip throughs and flopping. And you can go to the line a lot and play honest basketball. Giannis plays honest basketball, goes to the line a lot. Yeah. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an honest basketball merchant. He's not selling you any snake oil.
Well, I think that like his body mechanics, I talk about his body mechanics all the time on the show. He just is so good at like slithering through guys and like slaloming almost
really
through
smooth.
Like players' feet in the lane that like he gets them out of position and forces like contact.
He basically moves like a slinky.
Yeah, he does. That's a great way to put it. He moves like a slinky. And I think he puts himself just in position to get to the line all the time. The passing, I think, has been pretty good this year. The turnovers are a little bit up, but whatever. When you play this kind of role on a team and you, or you have a 32% usage rate, you're going to have 3 turnovers a game just because that's the way it works in the NBA. Ja Morant now. Ja Morant has been one of the most fun players in the league. He is leading the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies currently back to the playoffs. And he's averaging 27 points, 8 assists. I think this has been his best passing season of his career. And that's saying a lot because I think he's been a really high-level passer. He consistently attacks the rim at a very high level. I mean, there's so much to enjoy about what Ja Morant brings to the table.
He also gets like 3 highlights a game, the chase down blocks that fool people into thinking that he can play defense. Ja Morant and his ability to get to the paint. David Thorpe calls him modern Iverson. I think that's a pretty good comparison. The way he moves, he is incredibly explosive, and not just as a leaper, but as a runner. I mean, his first step is lightning fast, and he is the straw that stirs the drink for Memphis. And it's funny that people will try to devalue what he brings to the table because they're able to withstand, games without him. But then when you go back and you watch the tape in the playoffs, and what he does getting to the paint, especially like that Utah series where he just carves up one of the best defenses in the regular season in the league. Yeah, I mean, Ja Morant, if he's not an all-star, there is no all-star game.
Yeah, I think that's dead on. Okay, let's go to the forwards now. I have a feeling that this is going to be a fun conversation because my first pick was Domantas Sabonis, and you do not have Sabonis on your team. I will give the pitch. Before you get into this, let me give the pitch for Sabonis because I want this to be a positive conversation, and I want Kings fans to not have a meltdown. Sabonis this season, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists per game, 61% from the field. Doesn't take a ton of threes, but he's making them at 36%. Gets to the line quite a bit now, shooting 75% from the line. I think that his scoring season has actually gone a little bit underrated, just in terms of his ability to be as efficient as he is, to derive efficient shots around the basket. That ability just to put his shoulder into somebody and take that little flip shot. Just the way he kind of bails out their offense occasionally with his game on the block. Not that this is an offense that needs bailing out all that often. This is the best offense in the league. But I think he's the part that makes this the best offense in the league is his unbelievable ability to initiate offense in these dribble handoffs, these pistol actions, these, zoom actions up from the corner with guys like Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray. They're so creative in the way that they use their floor spacers. They're creative in the way that they use De'Aaron Fox. And the reason that they can be that creative is Domantas Sabonis. This is a team that is very clearly in the playoffs. I think Sabonis is the bigger reason why, as opposed to De'Aaron Fox. And I had to give Sabonis his flowers. I think he's been unbelievable this season. Dave, hate away.
All right, listen. You can't hate on the numbers, and you can't hate on the winning. But I can hate on the aesthetics. I just don't want to see Domantas Sabonis in an all-star game. I need a dunker.
Man.
I need a dunker. I went with Aaron Gordon.
He's going to throw.
Listen,
look, Aaron has a case.
Aaron Gordon, I think what he's done for them defensively, and they're the best team in the West. And I like to give those, I like to give consideration to the teams winning. And I think Aaron Gordon has been an all-star this season. And it was a tough choice between Aaron Gordon and Domantas Sabonis for me. I went the other way with the Fox and Sabonis conversation. Yeah. I leaned Fox. I think Fox has been instrumental to their success in a way that Sabonis, again, he's solid. He's very good. And he's I think been their second best player, but Fox has been the guy who really stirs the drink, has created havoc on opposing defenses to set up Sabonis to be able to make all those plays. I mean, 7 assists a game for a big is nothing to sneeze at, especially since, this is not a guy like Jokic that touches the ball every single possession. So he's having a great year, and I can't knock the selection. But, it's just not for me.
So, look, there is a real case that De'Aaron, he certainly leads their transition attack. They play at a tempo that is in the top fourth, top quarter of the NBA for sure. They definitely work together in synergy, right? And we're going to talk about De'Aaron later as well when he gets.
This is a little bit of Brunson and Randall
selection.
To me.
There's a little bit of that, except they're better than the Knicks for sure.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about De'Aaron a little bit more.
If both these guys get picked. Like if both of these guys, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, I think Sabonis is he's having an all-star level season. He's likely gonna make it. But for me, man, I value that dunk a little bit more.
So you mentioned Aaron Gordon, and I think that's a name that people will kind of like chafe at a little bit. For what it's worth, if you look at advanced numbers, like let's go to Dunks and Threes, which I believe is Kosta Medvedovsky's website. Certainly the website that houses his metric EPM. And Aaron Gordon right now is 12th in the Western Conference in estimated wins added. And I think there is like a real case for him as an all-star. He is certainly someone that I considered. I ultimately left him off. But again, like I even beyond what you've done so far, I would love to hear the case for Aaron Gordon in terms of his importance to that Denver Nuggets team.
Well, again, I think that it's the defense for them that they need it. He has to play defense at the level that he plays. And then on offense, now he slid down a couple spots in the importance of his role, but look at his rebounding numbers. His efficiency is up through the roof, as you just mentioned. He's just been a guy. It's not quite like he's not a Zion Williamson level of talent, but he's playing a similar role where they don't run plays for Aaron Gordon. He makes plays, whether it's on the offensive glass or with timely cuts. he really has limited his 3-point shooting, much to his improvement, right? He's become he's become more of an attacker and play finisher rather than trying to spot up. And I think that suited him much better. And part of the reason why they've been so successful, man. Aaron Gordon has been their second best player if you look at the entirety of the season. He's been their second best player. And I think that deserves a lot of consideration.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I very, very strongly considered Aaron Gordon. He has been absolutely terrific this season. I love everything I've seen. Okay. My second pick behind Sabonis in the West for the front court was Lauri Markkanen. Do you have Lauri on your team?
No.
This is beautiful. The West is a mess, man. The West front court is an absolute mess. So Lauri Markkanen this season, averaging 25 points, 9 rebounds, shooting 52% from the field, 43% from three, has a 67 true shooting percentage, 87% from the line. And by the way, he is getting to the line 5.7 times per game, almost doubling last season's output, essentially, when he was playing for the Cavaliers. He has been so critical for the Jazz, this Jazz team should be nowhere near 500. And I know that I made the case that it's easier to go from, a 30% winning percentage team to a 50% winning percentage team than it is to go from 50 to 75, such as Aaron Gordon is helping Denver do. But you just watch Markkanen every single night. It's the big shots. It's the defensive attention that he gets every single night and still produces, not just in terms of volume, but produces efficiently at that volume. He's the guy the teams are trying to stop every single game, and nobody can do it. Like, nobody has figured this out yet because he has just been so unstoppable in the mid post, from behind the 3-point line, scoring at the rim. Like he's been a phenomenal scorer at the basket this season. If you look at, I was surprised to learn that, like, if you look again at a lot of the advanced metrics, I have EPM up right now, so I'll just bring it up. Markkanen's currently 5th in estimated wins added. If you look at just the straight, like, EPM number, he is in the top 15 in the league right now. Lauri has been just an absolute stud this season for the Utah Jazz. I had to include him, especially once I decided on my rule of you have to play 30 games. It knocked out Anthony Davis. It knocked out Devin Booker. It knocked out Kawhi. It kind of opened things up. And by the way, like, I think that it's deserved in terms of getting guys that have played real minutes this season. I think that we should reward those guys more than some of the greats that, just haven't played as much this year.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that. I mean, I think playing the game matters. This is why I'm making the big push for total points to be the scoring title. Because total points, I think that's telling me a lot. If you're playing enough to be in the total points chase and you're in the top 10, I know you're actually a scorer who's playing and contributing to winning, most likely. You're at least playing that more. You're at least playing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, man, it's points. It's a scoring lead. If we can't look at totals, then a guy can play 58 games and win the scoring title. Is that the world we want to live in? No, I don't think so. But I like Lauri. I think he's having a great season. But I went with Jaren Jackson Jr., man. I think that, again, Memphis is the second best team in the West right now. He's having a defensive player of the year caliber season. I mean, the block shots have just been insane. He's up over 3 a game. I think he's 3rd in total blocks, in spite of being, like 10 games behind the rest of the guys that are at the top of the list. So, Jaren Jackson Jr. to me goes hand in hand with what Memphis has been doing. And so, I think he's an all-star.
So comparing Lauri and Jaren, because I went through this a lot in my head. Lauri has just played 700 more minutes than Jaren.
Right. Yeah, he plays a lot. More. Yeah.
I had to reward that. I just kind of had to at the end of the day. Like, I get it. I think Jaren's been phenomenal on defense. I just that ended up being kind of what knocked out Jaren for me. I know he's the defensive player of the year so far. He impacts winning at an exceptionally high level. I just kind of rewarded the guys that have played a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't know. I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get over in Memphis, man. I want some free,
I love it.
Go to visit.
It's a great place to get over. Okay. Yeah. So I think that we're going to end up 0 for 3 on the front court. because my third guy is Paul George.
Yeah, and I don't have a third guy. Oh, wait.
Don't.
No, wait. Anthony Edwards is a forward, right?
Anthony Edwards is a guard.
He's a guard. Then yes. I don't have a third big. How did I make that mistake?
Who are your wild cards?
My wild cards were, I have 3 wild cards. That's what it was. Let me fix that. I'll fix that. Go ahead.
We'll fix it in post.
My third, I'll fix my third big. My third guy is gonna be Lauri Markkanen, by the way. He was third on my list.
So we're good.
I picked too many guards.
We went 1 for 3 then.
Guard heavy.
That's
is the
great.
West. Yeah. So Lauri Markkanen is my third guy. I chose Jaren over Lauri Markkanen. The season Lauri's had. And you know what's funny is, like, if we had talked about Lauri Markkanen, like if we could go back in time and tell people before he left the Bulls what he was going to do in Cleveland and what he was going to be able to do in Utah, people would have thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Right. This guy hit the gym, actually committed to playing defense when he was in Cleveland, got some really good coaching, I think, while he was there, and has just turned his career around. I mean, he now looks like a guy who could be a number 1, definitely a number 2 on a winner.
On a great team.
Yeah. Right.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's get to Paul George now. Paul George this season, I think, has been way underrated, way under the radar in terms of what he's brought the Clippers. This Clippers team, by the way, like, sneaky is currently the 3rd best team in the West. Or no, 4th best team in the West behind Denver, Sacramento, and Memphis. They have just kind of risen up. Everyone was complaining about them around midseason. Everyone was, what's going to happen with the Clippers? Can you win a championship when your guys play half the games? Whatever, right? Paul George has played 36 games. He's played like 1,300 minutes this season. He plays a ton when he plays, obviously. Averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. It's just that he does literally everything on the court. He has become an unbelievable pull-up shooter, obviously, throughout the course of his career, right around the time that his 5th season rolled around. He has become a really, really underrated passer that can initiate offense for them. He can run off of screening actions and take pull-up shots. He can run off screening actions and take catch-and-shoot shots. On top of that, he's been incredible again on defense. Like, he has been absolutely unbelievable. If you look at the way that, for instance, I talk about this all the time, watch him like just run through dribble handoffs, watch him completely break up any ball screen action with his mobility and length and strength to get through that, his recovery ability with his size. Like, it's just all so phenomenal. I think he's the guy on the Clippers right now. Certainly has been through the first, 55 to 60% of the season. It'll be Kawhi in the playoffs. Kawhi has also been great. Kawhi did not meet my personal games played barrier in terms of this, but Paul George, I think, is very deserved of being an all-star this year. He has just been absolutely great.
Yeah, he's back to being a ball hawk. He's a scary guy on an island defensively now. Again, seems to be fully healthy. Yeah, I think that, Paul George kind of, for me, it's more about, just that team in general has been disappointing to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to figure it out. And Paul George takes some of the blame for that, lack of availability, but 23.5 points a game, you maybe expect a little bit more, especially in a season like this where offenses are kind of crazy. But yeah, Paul George, he's going to be an interesting guy to talk about come playoff time, because I do think everyone's kind of forgotten about him. We pay more attention to Kawhi when he's out there and doing stuff than we do Paul George. And if Paul George can continue to be healthy and play at this level, I mean, the Clippers are going to be good no matter what they look like right now.
Well, it's weird too, because like Kawhi and Paul are going to be so desperately important, because that offense is just terrible to watch. Like they are awful to watch. Like it feels like they don't run much. They run, let's run a primary action, try and get a kick out, and then get it back to Paul or get it back to Kawhi. And that's like the offense right now. Or sometimes it's Marcus Morris, sometimes it's Norman Powell, right? But it's a lot of guys that play a lot of isolation ball and try and create a shot that way. I just thought of this. It's like watching Kentucky's offense, and you don't watch enough college basketball, but you maybe understand how disastrous Kentucky's offense is. It's like watching Kentucky's offense try and just like play with no movement whatsoever. But when they have just like the most elite talent in the league, basically, like Kentucky often does, right? Like they've gone to the Final Four many times. They've gone to, they've won a national title there under John Calipari. It reminds me of watching a Kentucky offense. And I don't mean that as a positive.
They play basketball like it's Red Rover. It's not a fight against a group of bad guys in a movie. You can do stuff together. You don't have to go all at once. And I don't believe in the Clippers like winning a title because they don't have a coherent half-court offense. And I know that like often playoff series and games come down to isolation possessions, being able to just score, get a bucket when you need one in half court. But you got to be able to fool the defenses. And so at least this year, these guys look healthy.
Yeah,
so we'll find out.
Okay. Let's go to the wild card picks here in the West. Okay. Damian Lillard was my top one. Do you have Damian Lillard on?
That's my top one.
Yep. 30 points per game, 7 assists, 46% from the field, 37% from three, 90% from the line. It's just like an absolutely ridiculously loaded guard here in the West, where he is the 5th best selection among guards.
Because his team isn't as good.
It's because his team isn't as good. And frankly, because Luka and Steph are 2 of the top 7 players in the league right now. John Morant has been incredible, leading the 2nd best team in the league. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is averaging 30 points himself. Like, Dame has been unbelievable. He's been one of the 15 best players in the league again, but it's a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
60-point game, man. It's so crazy.
Unbelievable. It was funny.
21 of 29 with a heave.
I think that like 2 days before Dame went on this like absolutely ridiculous, insane heater that he's on, I think I did it on like January 10th. I said, who hasn't had like the crazy big game this year while everyone else around the league is just going nuts? It feels weird that Dame hasn't had one, right? On the 12th, he went for 50. On the 15th, he went for 40. On the 17th, he went for 44. He went for 60 against Utah in that game that you just referenced. Then he went for 42 last night. Like, as soon as I said it, my man just went on the heater of all heaters, and I love it. It is.
But he's listening to the Game Theory podcast.
I would hope so, man. Shout out those folks up there in Portland, man. Okay, this is the hardest spot for me. This last West wildcard spot. De'Aaron Fox, Jaren Jackson Jr., Anthony Edwards. I also briefly considered Draymond Green. I think that without Dre, again, the Warriors would be in enormous amounts of strife. I ultimately did not end up with Draymond because they are the 17th ranked defense, and he derives a lot of his value from defense. He's not the reason that they're the 17th ranked defense, but
yeah, right.
If we're trying to assess value this season, I think that the other guys just haven't beat very slightly. Is there anyone else that and Aaron Gordon, who we talked about briefly already? He didn't make my team, but we've kind of already touched on him to a pretty substantial extent. Anyone else that you considered here?
I mean, I thought about Paul George, and Anthony Edwards was my runner up. I think we're seeing it's a little hop from him. It may not be the leap we all wanted, but it does seem like the game is like really slowing down, and Minnesota finding all this recent success, especially with the ball in his hands. And it's stark. It stands out big time end of games when he doesn't touch the basketball now. When D'Angelo Russell is doing his own thing at the end of a game and you see Anthony Edwards standing in the corner, it catches your eye right away now. And that says a lot to me. Like, hey, this is a situation where Anthony Edwards ought to have the ball. Why didn't he have it? And when I'm saying that about a guy, he moves up the list quite a bit. But ultimately, I wound up going with De'Aaron Fox for the reasons I listed.
I did too.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'm with you. I had Anthony Edwards as my top runner-up. And I felt bad about that. I love Anthony Edwards. If you look at what he has done like I would have thought after the first 30 games of this year, 25 games of this year, there is no way that Anthony Edwards is going to be even really in the ballpark for this, right? And then you look, basically, since right around Christmas, he's averaging 28 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds per game, shooting 48% from the field, 40% from three, 78% from the line. He has completely taken over for a Minnesota Timberwolves team that desperately needed it. They have won something like they went on that run where they won I think like 6 of 7, and then recently they went on a run where they won 5 of 6. Like they are firmly right back in the playoff picture, despite making one of the most disastrous trades I've ever seen in my life this offseason. And it's a credit not to Rudy Gobert. It's obviously not Karl Anthony Towns right now. It is all Anthony Edwards that they are back right in this mix. And I think he deserves an incredible amount of credit. I just think De'Aaron Fox has done it all season, which is why I ultimately decided on De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, and it's not game in, game out, but there are some high level defensive possessions from De'Aaron Fox. And that stands out to me, with a guy with his sort of activity on offense, when he's asking for some of these tougher defensive assignments, especially late in games, crucial possessions, I care about that stuff. And then again, winning matters. So, having a king on the list, I think was pretty important.